So earlier, we discussed the first two basic parts of the cell, namely the plasma membrane and the cytoplasm. Also, we distinguish the difference between the membrane-bound and non-membrane-bound organelles, in which organelles are considered to be the little organs of the cell. So, in this case, we will proceed to the third basic part of the cell known as the nucleus. So, the nucleus is also known as the information central. So, why information central? Actually, the term information here pertains to the genetic information. So, this genetic information refers, or let's say, this genetic information was actually stored in the DNA molecule. So remember from your prior knowledge, DNA molecules refers to the genetic makeup, or it tells the genetic makeup of an organism. It tells the genetic expression or the hereditary traits of an organism. Also, the DNA molecule provides such instruction. Instruction about what? Instruction about the functions of all other parts of the cell. In other words, nucleus controls all the activities, all the functions of the other parts of the cell. Hence, it can be compared to the city hall. Remember that in a certain city, so the city hall governs or it controls all the activities that will be conducted within that particular city. Hence, its nickname is, it is the city hall, since it controls every activities that can be found within the cell, including all the other functions of the different structures of the cell. Okay, so this is the main function of the nucleus. It is the control center of the cell. Hence, we use the term the city hall. So let's try to describe the shape as well as the location of the nucleus within a typical cell. So, as you notice in our presentation, this part is the nucleus. And take note, this structure is the endoplasmic reticulum. So, going back, we can describe the shape of the nucleus as a spherical body, okay, and it is usually located at the center of the cell. So, to sum it up, the nucleus, it is a rounded or spherical structure usually found at the center of the cell. Hence, another name for the nucleus is it is the control center, since it gives all the instructions that must be performed by each part of the cell. And did you know that nucleus has different parts? So in our illustration, there are 6 main parts for the nucleus. So let's have the first part of the nucleus. So we have number 1. So number 1 pertains to the nuclear membrane. So you have the nuclear membrane. From the name itself, it is a membrane. Hence, it is classified as a membrane-bound organelle. And since it is a nuclear membrane, then we can say that the nuclear membrane, it is the outer covering of the nucleus. And take note, just like a plasma membrane, it is made up of phospholipid bilayer. So this is the nuclear membrane. Okay? So let's proceed to the next part of the nucleus. So the nuclear membrane consists of a tiny perforation. Okay? So this tiny perforation refers to tiny hole. Okay? It is a tiny hole. So in other words, the nuclear membrane consists of tiny perforations, or let's say tiny holes, known as the nuclear pore. And that is number 2. So for number 2, we have the nuclear pore. So nuclear pore, it is the tiny perforations mean to say tiny holes in which it controls the entry and exit of materials. Okay, so this is the main function of the nuclear pore. It is the one that acts as the security guard within the nucleus, since it controls the entry and exit of the different materials like proteins and DNA molecules, along with the other essential substances. And its diameter is actually approximately equal to 5 micrometers. Okay, so this is known as the nuclear pore. So at this point, we discussed the first 2 parts of the nucleus. We have the nuclear membrane, which is the outer covering of the nucleus, in which it consists of the second part known as the nuclear pore, which refers to the tiny perforations or holes in which it regulates or it controls the entry and exit of the materials inside and outside the nucleus. Let's proceed to number 3. Okay, so number 3 refers to these, let's say, fibers that are white in color. So take note, it consists of thread-like structure that is actually made up of fibers, or let's say protein fibers or protein filaments. So these protein filaments or protein fibers are known as the nuclear lamina, which is item number 3. Nuclear lamina. So what is a nuclear lamina? Nuclear lamina consists of protein filament. So this protein filament actually refers to the fibers. And take note, it maintains the shape of the nucleus. So this is the main function of the nuclear lamina. It consists of protein fibers in which it maintains the shape of the nucleus. Okay, so that is the nuclear lamina. In addition to that, we have number 4. Number 4 actually refers to the jelly-like substance inside the nucleus. Okay, so this portion was actually a jelly-like substance, similar to cytoplasm of the cell. So take note that the nucleus, inside the nucleus, it consists of a jelly-like substance in which this jelly-like substance is known as the nucleoplasm. Nucleoplasm, also known as karyoplasm. From the Greek word karyon, which means nucleus. Meaning to say, it is the fluid inside the nucleus known as the karyoplasm, also known as the nucleoplasm. So it is the jelly-like substance inside the nucleus, similar to cytoplasm. And that is item number 4. Second to the last, within the cyto, or let's say within the karyoplasm or nucleoplasm, you can observe that there are thread-like structures that are considered to be purple in color. So this one. So you have thread-like structures that are purple in color. So these thread-like structures actually refers to the genetic material. Okay? So it is the tangled version or the tangled form of the genetic material that consists of DNA molecules. Okay? So these tangled form of genetic materials that consist of the DNA molecule will be known as the chromatin. Okay? So, chromatin actually refers to the tangled form of the genetic material. And since chromatin is a genetic material, or let's say it is made up of a genetic material, then we can say that chromatin consists of the DNA molecules, which is the storage of genetic information for the genetic makeup of an organism. Okay? And this chromatin, during cell division, chromatin, for example, this is the chromatin, this is the tangled form of the genetic material. During cell division, it becomes more organized, forming chromosome. Okay? So, chromatin refers to the tangled form of the genetic material, but during cell division, it becomes more organized to form chromosome through the process of condensation. Condensation is the process in which the chromatin turns into chromosome, and it happens during cell division in relation to the third postulate of the cell theory. And then the last but not the least, number 6, is a spherical body located at the center of the nucleus. Okay? So the spherical body located at the center of the nucleus is known as the nucleolus. Nucleolus is the spherical body inside the nucleus. And what's the main function of the nucleolus? Nucleolus is actually responsible for the creation, or let's say it creates the rRNA. Okay? So rRNA. rRNA stands for ribosomal ribonucleic acid. Take note, nucleolus is the one that creates rRNA, or the ribosomal RNA. And what's the main role of rRNA or ribosomal RNA? Ribosomal RNA or rRNA is actually one of the basic components of a certain organelle inside the cell, in which once this rRNA was combined to proteins, then this will form another organelle known as the ribosomes. Okay? So in other words, nucleolus is responsible for the creation of a building block of the ribosome. And this building block is known as rRNA or ribosomal RNA. So in other words, ribosomes will not exist without the nucleolus. Since nucleolus is the organelle, or let's say the part of the nucleus that creates its major building block, which is the ribosomal RNA or rRNA. And ribosomes, take note, is actually responsible for the genetic makeup of an organism. Since it will be discussed in the next part of our discussion dealing with the genetics for general biology 2. Okay? So for now, nucleolus is the one that creates ribosomal RNA, which is the building blocks for the ribosomes. And from that, we will discuss ribosomes in our next video presentation. So to sum it up, there are 6 main parts for the nucleus. You have the nuclear membrane, nuclear pore, you have nuclear lamina, chromatin, nucleoplasm or caryoplasm, and then the last you have the nucleolus.